Hi everybody, I'm Trish Christ. In this episode of Our Nashville, NECAT and our super crew of teenagers spend some time with the Nashville Food Project. CEO Tolu Quinn and her team are going to show and tell us all the cool things they do in our community. Are you ready, Tolu?
Yes.
Are you ready, super crew?
Yeah.
Let's make the show.
It's our Nashville.
It's our Nashville.
It's our Nashville. It's our Nashville.
We all know how to talk about our organization during meetings, but what about the chance encounter of a lifetime? You never know who may share your next elevator, notice your logo on a notebook or a tote bag, and ask what you do. What's the clearest, most persuasive thing you can say in a short elevator ride?
The Nashville Food Project, we think of it as a community food project. So when people come to the Food Project, I think they think that we're going to be a food pantry or a food bank or a soup kitchen, something that's very recognizable. But they see these vibrant community kitchens where we're making made-from-scratch meals. They come into our gardens where we are equipping Nashvillians with the tools they need to grow their own food for their own homes or to sell. So it's community food, and we're really trying to alleviate hunger and also increase social connections between neighbors, between us all.
When we say a Nashvillian is hungry or suffering from hunger, what do we mean by that? No meals in a day, haven't had a meal in a few days, have had poor meals? What do we mean by hunger in Nashville?
When we talk about an individual being food insecure, usually it means they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. Oftentimes, the most affordable food, or food that's most readily available, especially in poor communities, tends to be not nutritious. Maybe it's fast food, maybe it's food from a corner store. So when we talk about increasing food security, it means making sure that an individual or household has the food they need for a healthy life. Emergency food is really an inefficient way to get people the food they need, especially people who are living in poverty. So in America, for example, we have over 50 million households that rely on some form of emergency food to supply their source of nutrition. And if you think about this analogy, there are emergency situations, times when people need to access food, maybe after a natural disaster or a war or something like that. But sort of like the emergency room is no place to obtain primary care, emergency food is not a sufficient way to supply people with the nutritious food they need to live a healthy life. So here in Davidson County, we have over 100,000 households that are food insecure who don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And I think that when we talk about hunger, that's what we mean.
How did the Nashville Food Project get started? Were you inspired by another city's work or another country's work? Where did this come from?
The Nashville Food Project got started, we were a smaller operation that was a local arm of a national nonprofit that was based out of Austin. We had a single food truck, and we had volunteers who would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and ham sandwiches and put them on a food truck and distribute them under bridges and on the streets. And they were sack lunch type meals. They were shared with the goal of starting a conversation with people who are living on the streets, experiencing homelessness, as a way of getting them into some kind of, at that time, it was transitional housing. I was a part-time program manager of that operation, and I think with other people really started to have this vision of how can we bust this up a little bit. And there were so many things that happened along the way. The 2010 flood in many ways showed us the way. We started during the flood making made-from-scratch meals. We had never done that. It took us out of our sack lunch model. After the flood, on Tuesday nights, our truck taking these now hot made-from-scratch meals was going to some daily rate, weekly rate motels on the north side of town at the intersection of Dickerson Pike and Trinity Lane. We went every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, and the food was really delicious and hot, and our volunteers would park in a parking lot. And people who were staying in these motel rooms would come out and get a meal in a clamshell, and they would take it right back into their motel. And there was deep need, children living there, and you could genuinely tell that the residents appreciated these meals. But in terms of our mission, alleviating hunger and cultivating community, there was no, we were not making good on this cultivating community claim. And we were still very young as a nonprofit and finding our way. At the same time, we were sort of struggling with this, how could we build better community at these meal sites? At these particular locations on the local news, there were, drug busts and police raids and prostitution stings and some pretty dangerous stuff happening at these very locations, being named on the local news at night. And I would just, my head would hit the pillow, and I was just like, how are we gonna be part of changing a story in this neighborhood and not just reinforcing our difference through this meal delivery model? So it was almost like an answered prayer, because this amazing guy, my friend Nate, who runs another nonprofit called Trinity Community Commons, gave us a call, and so I was thinking, we can't just pull out of these meals. This is a place of deep food insecurity. So my buddy Nate called and said, hey, I'm new to the neighborhood. I am an organizer. I've been meeting out of the basement of this Methodist church that's hired me to just do some good work in the community. And I've seen your food trucks roaming around our neighborhood, and I'm wondering if you could bring a meal to our fellowship hall, essentially. And
Wow.
we were able to take flyers to these motels and say, it's going to be on Tuesday nights, it's going to be at 6 p.m.
Awesome.
It's 1.5 blocks away, there's a sidewalk, we'll come pick you up, there's going to be basketball for the kids. And what we were able to do is shift the model, and it became this amazing sit-down meal at table with tablecloths and real silverware and flowers on the table, and you wear name tags. And it's been a meal that has transformed that neighborhood in the most beautiful way. I think sometimes we have a tendency to want to treat a symptom of poverty like food insecurity on its own. But at the Nashville Food Project, we're really careful to think about this is just one symptom of poverty. So the men and women and families we're privileged to work with, they're probably facing lots of other things. And so the way our programs are structured and lined up is that we want the meals that come out of our kitchen, which are nutritious and delicious and food you would be proud to eat, we want those meals to go out alongside work in this community that is addressing other symptoms of poverty. So those partners and those partnerships, when I talk about community food, being in deep partnership with, say, an ESL class or a financial literacy class or a program designed for women to finish their GEDs, when those meals can go out alongside some of this other really critical poverty disrupting work, that's a win for us, because then these meals aren't handouts, that they're really coming alongside something else and helping our partners, incentivize participation in their programming and making sure the clients of their programs are well fed, creates a real sense of community around the work they're doing. So that partnership piece is such a critical part of what we understand to be community food.
I am Ann Carty, and I am the program director with the ARC Community Resource Center. We are located in Pingree, Tennessee, and we pick up food from Nashville Food Project for our Meals on Wheels program in the South Cheatham area, which covers pretty much Kingston Springs and the Pingree area. The ARC is a helping agency for folks in South Cheatham County, which covers mainly the Pingree and Kingston Springs area. We're a small area, but we do have people with great need at different times in their life, and our motto is very simple. We want to help people stay stay afloat when they have that time of need. With leaving the food prep and the decision making of menus, we're able to just pick up the food and repackage it to send out or serve it on our Wednesday lunch, so we can really concentrate on some of the other referral services, especially for, again, our homebound seniors, like home repair, utility assistance, even if they need additional food to the meals, like from our food pantry, and we're able to give them a little bit additional and to supplement their usually fairly low salaries.
My name is Melanie Smiley, and I'm with the ARC, and I am the site director at 4 Meals on Wheels. You saw Butch back in the kitchen, and he picked up for today, and that will be for tomorrow. I'll get to the church site in the morning about 6, and I'll package out I'll get the cold meal ready and get it packaged up, get it back in the refrigerator, and then I'll get the hot meal back in the oven to reheat it to the right temperature and get it ready. And then I'll package up the hot meal going out, and then it'll all be ready to be sent out by 10 o'clock. It's all ready. I do all that on my own. I send out all of those. About 96 meals are packaged up to go out. So they're ready by 10 o'clock. And then the people that are coming into the church, they start arriving about 10:20. They want to be the first ones to get there and make sure they get their seat. You know, it's like church. Everybody's got an assigned seat, and that's where they want to sit. They love the companionship. You know, they get to see each other each week and catch up on things that are going on. And there's also a hot game of bingo that is after the meal. And nobody interferes with that hot game of bingo, let me tell you. I think the food plays a big part of it because, you know, they're talking to people, and to people they haven't talked to before, and they're talking about the food. They're talking about, you know, that they hadn't had this before, they haven't tried this before, and it's a different variety than what they're used to. And when they come to the line to be served, they're saying, well, what is that? What is that? Oh, it's really good. You've got to try it. You know, it's pasta. You know, it's a spaghetti, and it's made a different way, and you're really going to like it. And you know, you have to sell it because they're not used to it. So you know, I'm a big seller. I can really sell something. So, you know, when they come through there, and then they will come back and they'll say, oh, Melanie, you were right. You're right, it was so good. And they're cleaning their plates. That makes me feel really good when I know they clean their plates and we're not having food thrown away.
Let's talk about the how. Where does the food come from? Are people donating tuna, peanut butter, and so forth, or do you grow everything that you serve?
In terms of how we get food into our kitchens, I'll start there. We do a really great job of rescuing edible food from our community. So we have really great anchor partners in the for-profit sector and the nonprofit sector. We work with lots of farms and farmers markets, some grocery stores, some restaurants to recover food that's in excess. So it's a caterer potentially at the end of her long night, and she can drop off pans of rice or pans of cooked chicken right into our walk-in cooler. We have a restaurant, Green Hills Grill, whose cooks in the back save all the trimmings of a piece of salmon, of a side of salmon, or their prime rib trimmings. They vacuum seal them and drop them off in our walk-in freezer. Whole Foods Market has continued to be an anchor partner for us. We get a lot of produce from them. So when we talk about food waste, like food scrap or uneaten food heading to the landfill, from an environmental standpoint, it's like the worst place it could possibly end up because it creates a lot of methane and contributes to, you know, it's a very potent greenhouse gas, so it's contributing to climate change. So of all the food we have, 40% gets wasted. And of what gets wasted, 98% goes to the landfill. Right. But there's this amazing pyramid that goes like this that was established by the EPA. The top is like, the first thing you can do is source reduction. So reduce.
Don't make so much.
Don't make so much food waste. The next thing is get it to people. If you have leftover food, the next thing is get it to animals. The next thing is anaerobic digestion, which is interesting but complicated. The next thing is compost, and the next thing is landfill, and the landfill is like the absolute last thing we want to do. And you know, in a time of climate change and global warming and all this, I think we're all looking for ways we can be part of, you know, changing.
We don't get another planet.
We don't get another planet, like changing the story here. That's something on a very small scale that we can do in our own home. For the Nashville Food Project to do what we can to recover food, bring it to our kitchens is a really beautiful thing. I mentioned Whole Foods. We get about 2,000 pounds of mostly fruit from them each week, and fruit is very expensive, so it's a wonderful resource for us to bring into our kitchens. We have these sort of industrial dehydrators where we our volunteers cut up fruit and put it into our dehydrators, and that dried fruit goes into granola, a 5-ingredient granola bar that we make and share with after-school programs. So we're very resourceful and responsive to the recovered food that comes our way. We also grow production gardens in the city where we're growing vegetables that are high-use vegetables so lots of salad greens, lots of greens in general, lots of tomatoes during the summer.
My name is Krista Bentley, and I'm the Interim Chief Programs Officer at the Nashville Food Project. In my job, I am over both the meals and the garden program, as well as the community engagement programs. We like to compost in 2 different ways. The first way is that we actually have a partner in the Nashville Compost Company who they come and pick up compost from us every week, and we like to share that with them, our resources with them. But we also like to compost on site so that people can see how it's done and that it's really simple and easy to do at home. So we put all of our kitchen scraps in this first space. We cover it with the brown material or carbon, and then it just gets rotated down the line. So in our community gardens, we provide people with access to land, with some tools, with some education, and they actually have a plot where they can grow food for themselves and their family and their community. We have a production garden program, which is actually producing food for both of our kitchens. So last year, I think they produced about 3,000 pounds of food for our kitchens. That's all food that we don't have to purchase, that's locally grown, and is an incredible resource for our community and makes our meals really healthy. And we also have a program called Growing Together, which is right now 7 farmers who have an acre of land. They're able to, they're all new Americans with strong agrarian backgrounds, so they're all really incredible farmers in their own right. And they're actually given access to land, tools, education about our growing climate and conditions, which are very different from their home countries. And they're actually selling produce. We're giving them the marketing. We have a booth at the Richland Park Farmers Market, as well as restaurant connections, and they get the full amount of the money from the food that they sell. So it's an incredible resource for them. Most of them are elders in their community and are really just able to create some sort of supplemental income for their families through that program.
Where are many of the immigrant farmers from?
At this point, primarily the participants in our garden program are either from Burma or Bhutan, many speaking Nepali. We have had some other gardeners from other, ethnic backgrounds over the years, but that's the primary population at this point who participate. What we love about working specifically within those communities is that connection to land and connection to growing one's own food is such a critical part of their identity, and being displaced from their native country and arriving in Nashville, and many of them not having living situations that have big yards or land. The reconnection to land is such a significant part of their identity. It's something that we're able to support with the resource of land. So that's, we have kitchens and we have gardens and we have all these other resources, and I don't know. I think that sometimes those of us whose identity is not so connected to land, we forget about what a tremendous resource that is.
Approximately how many meals do you all distribute, do you share, to use your word? Approximately how many meals does the Nashville Food Project share annually?
It's thousands of meals a week right now, about 5,400 meals each week. And I think we by the end of this year, because of some facility expansion and just a growing operation, we expect to double that. So it's a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. We get all of these nutritious plants and vegetables and greens and so forth from the various farm sources. What happens to it then? How does it end up on a plate for someone?
Yes, this is a really cool part of what we do, and if you're into logistics and if you're into cooking, it's just an awesome place to be. So all this food comes in and we don't always know what it is. So it could be venison from a local hunter, and it could be boxes and boxes of kale that come right after a market, so it's maybe 2 days old and definitely still edible, but maybe not what a farmer feels like she can take to her next market, and lots of other things. And so we have large volunteer groups of over a dozen people who come in and do what's called meal prep. And so what that is you come in and you wash your hands and you put on an apron and you get to your station, and you could be turning that venison into meatballs. And so you're making the breadcrumbs and you're chopping the garlic, and you're making meatballs over here, and over here you're peeling butternut squash, and over here you're rinsing and spinning greens. Meanwhile, we will have cook teams over on the big kitchen equipment, turning what was prepped yesterday actually into the hot meal that's going out. We do a lot of batch cooking, so we could have a cook team that's just simply coming in to make 45 gallons of marinara sauce that will be used the following day in a pasta bake.
My name is Bianca Morton. I am the chef director here at the headquarters kitchen. So my main job is to, it's kind of like an everyday mystery basket, or a version of Chopped. Because you kind of never know what you're going to get. First things first is it usable? That's the first thing I look at. I look at the amounts, but the amounts are more of a secondary criteria. It's not important sometimes of the amounts, because there's some things that I could use for smaller functions. I can funnel for catering, some of the nicer things, or something that's a smaller quantity, or I know I can supplement by ordering or doing the seconds purchasing and getting with my growing together farmers, seeing what they have. I would say 95% of our stuff is made from scratch. A lot of the people that we share with would not normally have access to a fresh ingredient. Not only would they not have access to it, but if they did have access, it might not be the first thing that they choose to purchase. So it's healthy, it's the nutrients, it's gorgeous. Like some of the things that we get in, you look at it and it's like, oh God, look how beautiful it is. It's almost too beautiful to eat. That's the kind of thing that we want to show. We want to show that artistry in every meal. So the fresher, the better.
How large of a team are we talking about in a day in a kitchen or in multiple kitchens for you guys?
We run 2 kitchens, and probably in a single day's time we have about 35 people that in different shifts are running through there doing all these tasks. On the sharing side, we also have truck teams who come in and they take these hotel pans of amazing food and load them up onto our vehicles, and then they're responsible for actually sharing this meal out in the community, in a time-sensitive way.
What could someone who's watching you tell us this wonderful stories of the Nashville Food Project, what could that person do to further your endeavors?
Well, we always need volunteers, and we love volunteers. So if you're in a position to organize a volunteer group, whether that's faith-based, through your community, corporate,
book club,
or as an individual, check us out at our website. If you're in a position of work in a nonprofit and could benefit through food support in some way, through Meals Partnership or otherwise, please reach out. We would love to work with you. And likewise, if you need catering support for some kind of nonprofit or community benefit, please reach out for that. We would love to potentially collaborate on something like that. So lots of ways to get involved, and those are pretty clearly stated on our website.
Okay, it's my favorite part of the entire episode because I love games. This is the speed round. So it's just like the game we used to play when we were kids, where I ask you a question and literally the first answer that comes to your mind, please let it fly and we'll go on to the next one. There are no wrong answers.
Okay. I'm like a super competitive person, so I was getting ready for a competitive game. But okay, I think I can do this.
Okay, let's call it competitive. You get points then. Okay. All right, here we go. Speed round with Tolu Quinn. In garden terms, what does the word perennial mean?
Something that comes back every year.
Name a garden item where we eat the seeds and the item itself separately.
Oh my.
I'm addicted to them, which is why I'm asking.
Oh my gosh. Does it grow here in Middle Tennessee? Okay. The seeds and the item separately.
Yes, it's around my favorite holiday. Pumpkins.
Pumpkins, of course.
Pumpkins. What is the smallest edible plant in the Nashville Food Project garden?
Oh. A cherry tomato?
What do you make with it?
We dehydrate them.
In your personal opinion, what is the most delicious vegetable?
Butternut squash.
In your personal opinion, what is the yuckiest vegetable?
I love vegetables.
I knew you were going to.
There is one, but I just need to.
You don't want to make it feel bad by saying
Swiss chard.
Oh, really? I would say eggplant, but
Okay. People have eggplant issues, don't they?
what mark do you want the Nashville Food Project to make on the world? You know, it's right there in your heart.
There's just so much, but encouragement.
Easy last question. What is your website?
thenashvillefoodproject.org.
Tolu, thank you
Thank
so
you.
very much.
It's such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much.
It's our Nashville.